Okay, thank you. And we're all set for the second segment of the morning session at LogiSYM 2021. And I hope you enjoyed your morning break with table service. And right now we're going to have a presentation. And this presentation is going to come from Andreas Ramsmeer. Now, Andreas is the founder and CEO at HANNOVER. And Andreas will be talking about integrating end-to-end supply chains in a new world. So integrating end-to-end supply chains in a new world. So Andreas, I see you're already walking up to the stage. So welcome and for your presentation. Thank you.
All the great leaders in the world have a few things in common. They all know that there is a transition happening, and they're all part of doing something new and good. Steve Jobs, he dared to challenge the way you were doing design on your mobile phones and laptop. Amelia, she was actually changing the way and was the first woman to fly across the Atlantic. And of course, we have Elon Musk challenging a whole car industry. What all these people have in common is courage. The courage to do something new, to do something different. And today, my name is Andreas. I'm the founder and CEO of HANNOVER. I'm very glad to be here today, doing my first intercontinental flight for many, many years, or at least 2 years. I'm glad to see all of you here today also. And for all of those who are online, I also hope that you are enjoying this. And a special hello to all my colleagues in Sweden, Germany, Singapore, and China, who is also watching me live right now. Today we're talking about digital disruption and about integrating end-to-end supply chains in the new world. But what we are really going to talk about is not about that. It's actually about courage. The courage to take on the status quo of this industry. We heard it before today. We've been talking about transformation for many years, and we will continue to do so for a long time. We do face a lot of supply chain challenges. And recently, Gartner was doing a survey looking at the top 3 challenges when outsourcing logistics. And first of all, it's actually a bit the incomparability of information systems between 3PLs and organizations. Secondly, it's about poor cost containment and lack of continuous improvements. And thirdly, it's about complexity of working with multiple partners. And I think we touched upon this already earlier today, but let's look a bit further into those 3 topics. Starting with the incomparabilities, if I have enough battery, incomparabilities of system. In today's supply chain partnership discussions, in supply chain dialogues, it's about, okay, who's actually doing business? And I think one of the reasons why the systems are not compatible is very much that you're focusing on only 2 parties doing the business, while actually to do global supply chain, you need several parties involved. But you also sometimes have a challenge and a difference when it comes to the business models, because the business model of a car owner is normally to lower their cost, to be able to sell more, And the business model for the logistics provider is to increase revenue and gross profit. And that is, in my understanding, also one of the reasons for the lack of innovation. And it also goes into an enormous inefficiency. Drewry made a survey, or actually they were calculating there is $34.4 billion in inefficiency in just the maritime industry. It's an enormous amount of money of inefficiency, and also an enormous area for improvement. And there are many, many stakeholders involved in the supply chain. And I will talk a lot about this today. If you look at a typical shipment, they're actually, according to Global Trade Review, 27 parties involved in average in a single shipment. You have 36 original documents, and you have 240 copies being sent for one single shipment. And you say, that can't be possible. Well, let's have a look at it. Why is it like this? If we look at the today's world, you do have the cargo owners, and then you have a numerous amount of layers of middlemen, all trading information. Everybody try to own the customer. Everybody try to own the cargo owner. And then you have all the different layers that actually need to interact with each other. So it's not only between the cargo owner and maybe a freight forwarder or a carrier, but they also have to coordinate internally. They have to coordinate with external parties, and they are all requesting information in many ways. So why do we do it like this? I think we talked about it before. Everybody's trying to get bigger. Everybody's trying to own the full ecosystem. And I do believe that it's actually the opposite which is going to happen. I think that we will actually come to a world where we are needing the parties that actually does the job instead. And those are the ones that are bringing the value to the supply chain. So the solution is that if we look at true end-to-end collaboration, let's start with the buyer. Say that you're importing goods into Singapore today. Importing goods to Singapore means that you can collaborate, of course, with a forwarder or carrier, and then try to organize everything yourself. But in order to really collaborate, I mean, what's the purpose of actually buying something? The purpose for buying something is that you want the goods on your shelves to deliver something. So the first thing you need to do when it comes to end-to-end collaboration is to make sure that you are working with the other cargo owners that actually are dealing with the goods. We have a seller that's actually sold the goods somewhere in the world. But in many cases, we also have a sender and a seller. And that can be an outsourced factory. It can be an outsourced 3PL warehouse, which is running on their own system, using their own VMS system, etc. And they are all part of actually facilitating the trade between the buyer and the seller. So when we're talking about integration of platforms also, and the platform evolution, it's important not to think about the platform evolution only for one of the parties, but actually the platform evolution across the parties. And if we have multiple party cargo owners, we of course also have multiple logistics providers. If we're shipping from Australia to Singapore, we need to have a trucker in Australia. We need to have someone doing the export clearance. We need to have the carriers with the boats. And we need to do import clearance. And we need to do the final delivery here. And all these parties are involved and needs to be interacting with each other for true collaboration. And it's not about saying that one is better than the other. I think that, and I've been working with most of the carriers, and most of the airlines, most of the freight forwarders across the world. And they are all super good, but none of them is good everywhere. And that's where the word flexibility, that we also heard before, is coming up here. So the challenge is to steer the process from order between the buyer and the seller, because that's actually the demand. All the way from transport planning to booking to execution and also the settlement. And all these components are crucial for effective supply chain collaboration from an end-to-end perspective. And also we should keep in mind that looking at this, you also have Incoterms into equation. Maybe you're buying FOB or you're selling SIF. But regardless if you buy FOB or SIF and actually share the cost, which is on the bottom part here, or if you are selling Xworks or DAP and control it all, you still need to collaborate with each other. So I think that true collaboration comes when we are daring to involve the whole ecosystem in this landscape and make sure that each part is doing their job when it should be done. That's what I call true end-to-end collaboration. And about connecting the ecosystem, I think it has 3 cornerstones. First of all, in order to really do what we were looking at the last page, you need to reduce the middleman. You need to take away the trading logistics parties and make sure that you talk directly to the parties having the assets, having the trucks, doing the clearance, having the vessels. Those are the ones that can influence service, and those are the ones that actually drive the price. And those need to communicate to each other. We also need to make sure that we are cutting this one up so that we actually can have the flexibility to work with the best of breed suppliers. Also said before, no one is best everywhere, but everyone is good somewhere. And use the one which is best where it's best. And use that in your supply chain to really optimize every single shipment, every single order in real time and in a proactive way. And the last pillar is dare to collaborate. Don't try to own everything yourself. It's not a risk that the truckers and the warehouse are talking to each other. It's just effective and an effective way of doing business. So talking about integration of the end-to-end logistics is about these three things. But then now we've been locked in for almost 2 years. So how does this look in the new world? We also heard in the beginning of this that 2021 really have been an amazing, perfect storm in terms of logistics. We have so many things affecting the supply chain, and it has led to 2 things. One is sky-high costs, but even worse is actually the all-time low service. So even if we pay much more today, we actually get much less service. And that is requiring a complete new flexibility, because what's the effect of this is really that it's affecting the whole supply chain for the importing and exporting companies. They are getting lack of components. They are having long delivery times. They have to close the factories or don't have anything to sell on the shelves. And they have to deal with either lower margins or increase the prices. This is the consequence of poor performance. And everybody's talking about, okay, what's the price? How can I say price? And price is the most important component. But it's all about working with supply chain. It's all about getting the goods delivered on time and clean and tidy and at the agreed cost. And handling these disruptive events is, according to Gartner, they did a study on what's most important in order to handling these disruptive supply chain events. And at the top come increased supply chain agility. We're back to the word flexibility. Make sure that we actually have multiple parties to work with all the time. But it's also about accelerating digitalization, because the digital world can actually do so many more calculations, provide so many more options, and make it so much more effective. And it's about risk and, lower the risk management. Work with the best parties, not the cheapest parties. And daring to try a new business model. So 80% of the supply chain leaders think that an internet platform approach will be coming in the new few years. And when it comes to efficiency, we also need to better interact with each other and use artificial intelligence, advanced analytics, and Internet of Things to really reduce the manual work. So, but I think that digitalization and automation is about a few things. If we start with the data-driven and proactive optimization, we can actually look at this in two dimensions. Reactive and proactive, and we can see the effect on the vertical line here, low efficiency and high efficiency. In the past, we have been working a lot with manual works, statistics, working with Excel spreadsheets, working with emails, trying to gather data. It's all super reactive because we are looking at things that have happened. And we are trying to optimize the future based on the past. And a good way of doing that is, of course, doing yearly RFQs. You take your historical volumes and you try to predict it to the future. But it's not very efficient and effective when changes are happening all the time and that no contracts are honored in the world. The next step is really to go into more advanced visibility. We have analysis and reporting. And looking at this, I mean, then we are stepping more into the digital world. We get more data points. We are getting maybe a better track and trace, so we can plan the delivery and everything else. But we are still very much looking at old data. And I'm a strong believer that the future is really about going from being reactive to start being proactive. Proactive in terms of helping both cargo owners and logistics providers for support on the decision making. Helping them to use the data to actually make better decisions going forward. And an example is that if you really would like to lower your CO2 emissions, is it better to look at statistics, or would you rather prefer to have the options available at the time you do booking? That's when you actually can influence what vessels you're going on, which carriers you're using, but also connected to what is the price, what's the reliability, and what is the lead time. That's when you can do the optimization. And then you are working in the proactive part and use the data to do that. And of course, as we go, they will learn better and better with all the data points how your preference is. Is your preference from this suppliers always the cheapest or always the fastest? Is it always to use the most reliable solution or anything else? And it goes along for every single step in the ecosystem. And it goes from, should I send it from warehouse A to warehouse B? And all of this is the change that I see happening in this industry right now. It is about collaboration, unbundling, and make sure that you are reducing the middleman. And the advantages you get is connected to this. Of course, a lot of control, you have flexibility, lower cost, and also trust. And I think that you can actually working in an integrated way from an end-to-end perspective. I would summarize with one word: better supply chain performance at a lower cost. We started to talk about courage. We started to talk about daring to challenge the way we do the status quo we are currently in. And I would like to ask you, are you ready to do this? Or are you going to go home and do exactly what you did before the pandemic? I think we're all coming to a point now where we need to stand up as leaders, as managers, and do the transition decisions needed. Not just following the behavior from the past, but actually connect the ecosystem and dare to do that together. And there are many initiatives here, and I think they're all good. We have some being partners here as well today. That's here to really facilitate this. And again, use the best of breed solutions. No one is best everywhere. And it's important for the factories. It's important for the 3PL warehouses. It's important for all the carriers. But it's also important for the platforms. You need to have air and ocean platforms. You need to have road platforms. You need to have platforms for other things at the same time as you use different platforms when you do personal traveling and personal shopping. So to end today's presentation, let's end where we started. Started talking about innovation, started talking about courage. And I would like to end with the person I started with, a quote from Steve Jobs, saying that innovation distinguishing between a leader and a follower. Thank you so much for listening in, and I wish you all a good remaining day.